Good day, everyone. We are Group 14, and we're going to present the rules and regulations for the trucking industry in Canada. My name is Christine, and I'm going to discuss parts 1 and 3, an overview of the Canadian trucking industry and the motor carrier safety fitness. My groupmate Zhao will discuss part 2, the Motor Vehicle Transport Act, and Queenie will follow with part 4, commercial vehicle driver hours of service regulations. And Thu will conclude our presentation with a memorandum of agreement of interprovincial weights and dimensions and penalties. So let's begin. Let me give you a brief background of the trucking industry in Canada. Canadian industry statistics define truck transport as a subsector that comprises establishments primarily engaged in the truck transportation of goods. They may carry general or specialized freight, and they may operate locally, that is between metropolitan areas or over long distances. As of 2020, Canadian industry statistics recorded 125,304 establishments under the trucking industry. Financial data for 2019, based on industry averages for SMEs, showed an average revenue of $305.9 thousand, and the average hourly wage paid in this industry is $25.19 in 2019. So let me turn you over to Zhao for the Transport Act.
Thank you, Christine. The Motor Vehicle Transportation Act was established in 1987. The purpose of the Act is to regulate the norms of domestic, border, and international motor vehicle transport in Canada to accommodate the healthy development of the Canadian motor vehicle transportation industry. At the time, the Act gave the supervisory power to the province. That means each province had the right to use its own rules to regulate trucking companies outside of the province. After 1988, in the environment of North American trade liberalization, Canada began to work on reforms to the Act. On March 2000, Second 2000 Bill 28 was passed, which is a reform bill to Motor Vehicle Transportation Act. So the passage of the Act marks the unification of national standards for the Canadian motor vehicle transportation industry. Please turn to the next page, Christine. Thank you. The Canadian Council of Motor Transportation Administrators, CCMTA, is an incorporated body that coordinates matters dealing with the administration, regulation, control of motor vehicle transportation, and highway safety. Membership includes representatives from provincial and territorial governments, as well as the federal governments of Canada. CCMTA province increased the influences for drivers and vehicles through reciprocity and harmonization, oversees, maintains, and support of the National Safety Code. A Forum for Province Terrorism and the federal government to discuss the emerging road safety challenges, emphasis through sharing of the expertise, and members can access to timely data, information, and research. Please turn to the next page. Thank you, Christy. The National Safety Code, NSC, contains 16 standards that were established within the framework of the Motor Vehicle Transportation Act to ensure road safety and facilitate It is the safe and efficient movement of the people and the goods across Canada. The regulations are negotiated by CCMT members and the motor transportation industry. These 16 standards are roughly divided into the 5 categories. First, a single driver license concept. It ensures that the driver's behavior of driving information is set to a single permit and record. Driver training. It includes knowledge and performance test. Driver examiner training program determine driver fitness in Canada. A cargo circument. It sets the standards for the transport of goods in order to ensure they do not move or spare on the road. Tracking performance evaluation. It is kind of standard for intervention of motor transport safety rating framework to assess the safety performance of trucks. On-road inspection. It includes maintenance and periodic inspection, CVSA on-road inspection, and daily inspection. Thank you. That's all. Who is next? Okay.
Thank you, Zhao. So let me continue with the Motor Carrier Safety Fitness Certificate regulations. So the Motor Carrier Safety Fitness Certificate applies to provincial authorities that issue safety fitness certificates to extra-provincial motor carrier undertakings and extra-provincial motor carrier undertakings. In the context of the presentation, extra-provincial truck undertaking is defined as a work for transport of goods by motor vehicle other than a bus that connects a province with any other province or extend beyond the limits of the province. A provincial authority may issue a safety fitness certificate to a person, body, to operate an extra-provincial truck undertaking that operates a truck, tractor, or trailer with registered gross vehicle weight exceeding 4,500 kilograms. In the process of application for safety fitness certificate, a provincial authority may not issue a safety certificate if it has not obtained the information and documents set out in Section 4 of Part C of NSC Standard 14, which is the safety rating. And trucks will also be required to provide a written proof that it holds a minimum liability insurance coverage and endorsement. Instead of a proof of minimum liability insurance coverage, written proof of undertaking to purchase the minimum liability insurance can be provided. However, before issuance of the safety certificate, the proof of insurance coverage is still required. So let's talk about the insurance for the extra-provincial truck undertaking. Minimum liability insurance coverage must be $1,000 for each motor vehicle and $2,000 for each motor vehicle transporting dangerous goods. The insurance policy must also contain an endorsement stating that at least 15 days before the policy is canceled, changed, or lapses, the insurer agrees to notify the provincial authority. And an extra-provincial truck undertaking must immediately notify the provincial authority of any change in the policy, may it be cancellation or change for that matter. And lastly, a provincial authority may not issue a safety certificate unless a satisfactory, unaudited, or conditional safety rating has been determined by the provincial authority. That's all for my part. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Queenie, and I'm going to talk about the commercial vehicle driver hours of service regulation. There are some difference in allowing time for a driver who drives south of city parallel and driving north of city parallel. For example, in driving south of city parallel, the driver can drive maximum 13 hours daily. And on-duty limit 14 hours, shift limit, they must stop driving after 16 elapsed hours in the last 8 hours of off-duty time. But for driving north of 60 parallel, the maximum 15 hours for driving daily, on-duty limit 18 hours, and they must stop driving after 20 elapsed hours since the last 8 hours of off-duty time. And driver can defer their daily off-duty time maximum 2 hours if they meet some specific requirements. Daily off-duty time deferral is not applicable. Applicable to driving north of south. Driving north of 60 parallel. Next slide, please, Christine. They can split their daily off-duty time in sleeping berth as well. There are 2 cycles for a driver to follow, and there are also difference in hours as well. 70 hours in 7 days in cycle 1 for driving south of 60 parallel, and 80 hours in 7 days for cycle 1 in driving north of 60 parallel. There is also a rule for cycle reset and cycle switching as well. Next slide, please. This is an example for a cycle. This driver choose cycle 1. They follow cycle 1. On Saturday, the accumulated hours 58 hours, remaining hour 12 hours. And to switch to cycle 2, the driver needs to have 36 consecutive hours of off-duty time. Next slide, please. In case of adverse driving conditions, driver can increase maximum 2 hours of daily driving limit and reduce 2 hours of daily off-duty time. But the total driving on duty and elapsed time in the selected cycle is not extended more than 2 hours. Next slide, please. To record the duty status, driver need to have electronic login device that is required for all driver to record all necessary information in a complete and accurate manner. Motor carrier shall create and maintain a system of accounts for electronic login device that is in compliance with technical standard. In addition to electronic login device, every driver needs to fill out a record of duty status. And on the left-hand side, you can see the form for duty status grid that the driver needs to fill out every shift that they work. And on the right-hand side is the receipt provided by the inspector. All driver need to submit the duty status grid on the current day and the last 14 days to the inspector, and they will provide the receipt. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. My name is Tu, and I will continue the presentation with Memorandum of Understanding of Interprovincial Weight and Dimension, or I call shortly the MOU. So the MOU endorsed by the Council of Ministers responsible for transportation highway safety in February 1988. So the MOU established a threshold of measurement limits acceptable for all provinces in Canada. On the right-hand side, you can see this is summary of tractor semi-trailer limits that the MOU defined. For example, the width of the tractor should be less than 2.6 meters, and the length should be less than 23 meters. For the hay, it should not exceed 4.15 meters, and the total mass weight should be below 46,500 kilograms. Next slide, please. For the Memorandum of Understanding defines also the configuration of a commonly used vehicle. Look at the table. You can see the category 1 is tractor semi-trailer, category 1A with tridem dry tractor semi-trailer, category 2 is A-train double, B train double is for category 3, C train double is for category 4, and category 5 is truck, category 6 is truck 40 trailer, category 7 is truck full trailer, and last but not least, category 8, the intercity bus and recreational vehicles. So look at each category. There are, defined on the range of axles, and those categories must not exceed the limit in terms of height, width, length, and cross combination weight as speculated in the table on the screen. Next slide, please. So I thought that all of us are not technical driver, so I put here the photo of 8 different type of category of truck for your references. Next slide. So all the driver, besides getting to know all the law and regulations of Canada, they should also be aware of the penalties if they breach the regulations. And here, the Canadian Transportation Agency is the government body who monitors compliance. And depending on each case, they can, issue 3 enforcement actions. The first one called cautionary notice. The second one is the notice of violation that contain a warning for contraventions of accessibility provisions. And last but not least, a notice of violation setting an administrative monetary penalty. So there are 4 severity levels. Level A is administrative, level B is minor, level C is serious, and level D is very serious. When the driver breaches of Canada Motor Vehicle Transport Act, they might pay the fine up to 5,000 for individual fees and up to 25,000 Canadian dollars for corporate fees. Next slide. Besides, knowing about the regulation, the penalties, drivers should also know the stuff enforced trucking regulation when they roll out on the street. The number one stuff enforced call it truck mechanical fitness. The second one is accurate logbook entries. The third one is truck inspection record. And the fourth one is lot securement. Those 4 major stuff enforced can prepare the driver to be when in front of the governors. So in addition to monetary fines, penalties that the driver should also face when they breach the law include 60-day vehicle impoundment or driver audit by the Ministry of Transportation, or the heaviest one, this is the revoke of license. And this comes to an end of our group presentation on the trucking industry in Canada. Thank you so much for listening.